everyone, I'm Clem and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my top 10 books of 2019. So I've read a lot of amazing books in 2019, but I had to pick 10 books, and those 10 books were really gems, like books I loved and that surprised me, that I'm going to reread one day maybe. So yeah, just so you know, the books aren't in any particular order, they're just like 10 books I really enjoyed in 2019. So the first book I'm going to mention is The Poetex by Elizabeth Acevedo. I discovered Elizabeth Acevedo in 2019, and I first read With a Fire Night by her. But then I read The Poetex by her, and this book was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. So if you don't know what it is, you're following, I can never say her name, but the main character is a teenage girl, and she thinks she's too much, like her body's taking too much place and she can't be heard in this family that's very religious, and her mom is really religious, like she doesn't want her to go out, to talk to boys or to do anything else than doing a confirmation classes. And in the middle you have this girl, and she is trying to express herself through her journal, and she's doing all in slam and in poems. And one day she goes into this slam poetry club and she finds a new way to express herself. But this book is really amazing because first, the slam is amazing. Like, Elizabeth Acevedo used to write slam herself, so it's really well written and really enjoyable to read. And then you have the whole like story of the main character with a mother, and it was really touching and heartbreaking at some point. Like, near the end something happens and I cried in the street because I listened to it, because Elizabeth Acevedo is reading the book. And if you want to read this book, you should listen to it. It's so pleasing to hear Elizabeth Acevedo reading it because she does an amazing job. So yeah, this book had to be on this list. It's just perfect. Next up, we've got Salt to the Sea by Rita Sepetys, and this was the first book I ever read by Rita Sepetys, and let me tell you, it was heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking. It was also one of the few historical fiction I read this year, even in the past few years, because I don't read that genre that much. But this one was really amazing. So it's the story of those 6 or 4 characters, I don't really well remember, and they are all in a country near Poland during the Second World War, and they are all like under the threat of either Russians or Germans during the Second World War, obviously. And they all come together on the same boat, and actually it's the story of this real event, of this horrible shipwreck that happened during the Second World War that was worse than the Titanic, but no one ever heard about it. Like, no history book is talking about it, and it was really heartbreaking because I like history and I never heard about it, so it was good to learn something, and it's what I like with historical fiction, because I can learn things at the same time. And it was so well written, and the characters were really heartwarming, and I don't know, I just loved this book. It was really great, and I can't wait to see the movie. I think like yeah, the movie is on its way. But yeah, this book really like marked me. Next we've got Pride by Obi Zuboy, and this is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So just by that it had to be on my top 10, because Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite stories of all time, and this retelling was amazing. So it is set up in black neighborhood, I don't know of which city, I can't remember. And so Lizzie, Zuri is like with her sister, and she lives in this neighborhood. But one day on the other side of the street, a family with 2 brothers, so Darcy and his brother, who is actually, no, Darcy's family, and the name of Darcy is Darius, and he comes with his brother, who is actually Bingley. And they come from the other side of the street, but they're like from the upper class, and so they don't really fit in this neighborhood. And basically it's just a story of Pride and Prejudice, but set between 2 teenagers and black teenagers. I really enjoy reading it, like from this point of view and from the perspective of people of colors, like to see that what at stake in Pride and Prejudice originally can work with those characters and in this setting. It was really amazing. I really enjoyed it. I really had a great time reading it, and if you haven't read it, just read it, and if you love Jane Austen, read it. It's really, really great. I had to put it in my top 10 because it's an amazing conclusion to a series, and it's A Conjuring of Flight by V. Schwab. So this is the last book in the Shade of Magic trilogy that I finally read in 2019, and it was time because it took me forever to read this series, but it's so great. Like the writing, the world building, the magic system is beautiful. I loved it. The conclusion was a bit long, like for me, like the book is not really long, but at some point I thought things could happen, like more things could happen, like it was a bit slow at some point, and I don't know if I'm satisfied yet with the ending. I still can't make my mind, like I understand that some people might like it, but I'm not sure it's what I want, so I don't really know what to think about this ending, but it had to be on my top 10 because it's an amazing book and it's an amazing series. Next, we've got The Wrath and the Dawn by René Adier, and this is the first book in the Wrath and the Dawn duology. I'm not sure if the duology has a name, or if it does. This book was one of the biggest surprises of the year. I read it because my two best friends kept telling me to read it, that they loved it, so I finally did in a readathon this summer, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the characters, I fell in love with the story, the writing, everything. The next month I read the second one, and even though I enjoyed it less, I still really enjoyed this series, this duology. It's really great. If you don't know what it's about, it's basically a retelling of the famous story of 1,000 Nights, which is part of the Arabic culture, folklore. I don't know if I can say that. But if you don't know it, it's basically I don't know in which country it's happening, but there is a caliph somewhere, and every night he takes a wife and in the morning he kills her, and nobody knows why. And the main character, Shazrad, one day she goes to be his wife, like she proposes herself, and she wants to avenge the death of her best friend who just got killed a few nights before. But instead of staying like doing nothing during the night, she calls the caliph and she tells him a story and the story of Aladdin. I think the first one is this one, I don't know. But when dawn comes, she hasn't finished the story, and so the caliph wants to learn the end, and so he let her live one night more. And this is happening every night, and so she lives 1,000 nights and she tells different stories. But René Adier goes further into the stories, and she brings a lot of politics and curses and love, and I loved it so much. It was really, really great. I'm sure I'm going to reread it soon. Not soon because I have other books to read, but it's definitely something I'm going to reread one day. Next, we've got the first book in the Young Elites trilogy by Mary Lou, and so it's the Young Elites, and it was beautiful. I've read a lot of Mary Lou's books this year, and the Young Elite is definitely my favorite one. I don't know why it took me forever to start this series. Like, for instance, this is a book that's been on my shelf for 2 or 3 years and I never read it, but I should have read it sooner because the story is really amazing. So in this society, and there was a disease, and some people died and other people survived the disease, but they got special abilities and they're called the Young Elites, or actually they're not called the Young Elites, they're called Malfetto. And so the main character, Adelina, is a Malfetto, and everyone thinks that if she she's the one responsible for the death of her mom, and actually she's not, okay? And one day she runs away and she finds this group called the Young Elites, who are actually a bunch of people with superpowers in a way, or actually a band of Malfettos, and she's joined them, but actually everything is not what it seems, and it's just so great. And we also have this guy who is sent to kill her because she's really powerful, and I don't know. And the ending of his book was just wow, what a cliffhanger, like too many deaths, and for a first book it was really enjoyable, and I want to read the rest of the series. Next up we've got The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace, and this is a collection of poems on the life of Amanda Lovelace. I read this while I was in Kenya, and I almost cried while reading it by the pool because some of the poems are really powerful and really heartbreaking. In this book, throughout a poem, she tells her life as a teenage girl and a relationship with a mother that was really hard and really like not good, and also a mom died, so she's talking about this and it's really heartbreaking. So I really enjoyed reading poetry because it's also something I'm not reading that much, and this one was really great. I intend to read two other books, and the one is The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one, and The Mermaid Doesn't Lost her voice in this one, or something like that. So I can't wait to read those poems because I really enjoyed the first one, and I'm sure I'm going to love these ones. Next, we've got the first book in the Grisha Trilogy, and it's Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. It was once again a huge surprise for me because I read it in order to read Kings of Scar by Leigh Bardugo, and I wasn't sure I was going to like them because my two best friends, they have really mixed feelings about this, so I was a bit lost concerning those books. But actually I read the first one and I read it pretty quickly and I actually enjoyed it. Like, I love the world building and learning about the Grisha, and Alina is actually kind of a cool character, but more specifically there is a Darkling, and oh my gosh, I'm in love with a Darkling. This man is bad, but I love him. Like, I like a really bad character, and I don't know, his storyline is really great, and I wish we had a book just on the Darkling. It would be amazing. Like, I think that's mainly why this book is here, because I really enjoyed the Darkling, because on the other hand, Mal is a piece of shit. I don't like him. He could burn at the stake, I would not care. So yeah, basically I love a Darkling and I love this book. Next up we have Rebel by Mary Lou. You see, the second Mary Lou book on this top. And this is the very surprising conclusion to the Legend trilogy. And it's happening 20 years after the end of Champion. And you're following Eden and Day as they live in Antarctica, so they no longer live in the Republic. And Eden is this very smart guy. He has an internship in the Republic during the summer. He's really smart, like he's younger than most students at the academy. But he wants more from life, and so one day he goes in the Undercity, which is the bad place. Like, for basically Antarctica works with points, like the more points you have, the more you are up in the society and the more things you can do. So he goes in the Undercity with his best friend and he takes part in a drone race, but at this drone race he meets a very bad guy who asks him to work with him, and Aiden wants to work with him because he thinks that finally someone sees potential, and so he says yes, and then shit goes down from there. And it wasn't what I expected, but I still loved it because I thought it was going to be centered around June and Day, but not at all. But I still really enjoyed reading it. Like, Eden is sometimes a bit of a piece of shit or whining bitch, and Day is so lost in his world. So yeah, it wasn't what I wanted or expected, but it was really enjoyable, and I don't know. Legend is one of my favorite trilogy, and it was so good to be back in this world, so that's why I think this book is on this top. And last but not least on this top, you have Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills. So in this book you're following Claudia, and Claudia goes to an only girls school, like private school. And at this school there is this it couple, Paige and Iris, and one day Claudia is at a party and she eavesdrops on the breakup of Paige and Iris, and Iris is a bit of a bitch, and she doesn't like Claudia because she's afraid that Claudia is going to say stuff about what she heard. But they are thrown together in this production of at their school of A Midnight Summer's Dream by Shakespeare. And so they have to work together, and actually they become friends. And also Claudia, she meets this boy from the only boy high school from like just right next to their school. And this book was really cute, and it's really great because it's not only about the love story but more about the friendship between Iris and Claudia. and it was heartwarming and at the same time heartbreaking at some point, and I just liked it. It's funny, it's everything I like. I think I enjoyed this more than the other Emma Mills book I read, which was First and Then. Yeah, it was really cute, and I'm really happy that I finally read this. If you want something cute, something quick to read, and something that's going to make you feel good, just read Foolish Heart. You will not be disappointing. Okay guys, that's it for my top 10 books of 2019. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me in the comments down below what is your favorite book of 2019. I would love to know, and maybe we can talk about it in the comments. And anyway, I will see you next time. Bye guys!